Friends, we're here this afternoon, not just to commemorate, but to celebrate the life of Jean, Louise, Turner, Pate. Life is a gift, pure and simple. That any of us are here, that we're breathing in and breathing out. It's all in the house, this gift. But we don't just celebrate the gift of life in general. We've come to celebrate life with specificity, Jean's life among us. That's why many of you are here. You have felt the reach and touch of her influence. And I think it's very appropriate on this Saturday afternoon. Most of us are stepping out of the norm and routine of what we'd be doing Saturday afternoon at 2. It's appropriate that we come here to give thanks to God for life, for Jean's life, but also to surround this family with the comfort and care of good friends and family. We believe that we can approach even this moment of worship in which we're dealing with human loss with a sense of hope and expectation. That even in pain we can find comfort, in sorrow, hope, and in death, resurrection. Our opening hymn is one chosen by the family. Number 140, you're in your hymnals if you're able. Number 140, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Let us sing. Oh God, we know we need not ask you to come. Wherever we are and whatever we face, the air is filled with your presence. So open now our hearts and our minds to all that you might bring. You know our needs before we ask. You even know our ignorance in asking. Give us now your grace, that as we once again face the loss of a friend, mother, grandmother, an aunt, grant that we may know that nothing can separate her or us from your great love. Oh God, this is one of those moments we need to hear you speak a word that reminds us that the final word today will not be the word of the grave or word of ashes. It will be your word, which is always filled with hope and love and life. Come, Lord Jesus, come and move among us, making us one with you, one with each other. We now pray the prayer that Jesus asked us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. This time we're going to have some words of remembrance. We're going to begin with Melissa, who is a niece of Jean's, and then we'll have the opportunity for some of you, right where you're at, maybe to share a word of thanks and remembrance. Melissa, we'll invite you to come.
Jean Pate, sorry. Step back and tone it down a little. Jean Pate was born in Flare Bluff, the second oldest of 4 children. John, Jean, Nell, my mother, and Carolyn, and Marcus. If you didn't know this family, let me tell you, they were a pretty dynamic bunch. Bright, charismatic, and brimming with talent and good humor. Jean was a quiet one, steady, humble, but while she may not have been as bold a presence as her more outgoing siblings, she definitely did not hide her light under a bushel. She was a force of great beauty, and she left her mark. After my parents' marriage, my mother settled with my father in Minnesota, his home state. Yet despite the considerable distance, we and the Pates stayed connected. I think of Susan and Laura, sorry, forgot my Kleenex, more like satellite sisters than cousins. Their folks were more than just our aunt and uncle. Shortly after I was born, my mother brought me down to North Carolina to be baptized by Uncle Bruce. He and Aunt Jean were my godparents. When our Uncle Marcus died in Vietnam, my little sister and I stayed with the Pates for a time. I was 6, and I'd been having some trouble learning to read. So Aunt Jean set out to teach me with that gentle but firm patience that was so characteristic. She gave me the key to the world of words. I went on to become a famously devoted reader and writer. I even attended a college whose nickname is the Great Book School. My literature-loving parents certainly kept that flame aloft, but I will always be profoundly grateful to Aunt Jean for lighting the torch. By way of thanks, I wrote her letters. Lots and lots of letters. Get a scent from the front row. I even told her in detail about a book I was thinking of writing, the plot, characters, the message. If I ever do write that book, I will dedicate it to Aunt Jean. We checked in a lot by phone, too. When work was foaming out my ears, I'd call her and say, "I've only got time for a drive-by." And she'd laugh and say, "All right, darling." And we'd catch up for 5-10 minutes. More often, she'd call me. And you'd think that meant she would focus on the conversation. But soon enough, she'd start talking to someone else at the house, and then perhaps a third person would walk in. She'd address them too, and then remember she had to make pumpkin bread or morning glory muffins for some lucky soul, head out to the kitchen to see if they had the ingredients in the cupboard, telling me what she had or didn't have. And then I used to tease her that she had a special talent for having 3 conversations at once. While I could only barely hold on to the one, but no matter the mayhem, she never let go of my heart. She was smart. She was also wise. I didn't turn to her often for mothering, but when I needed her advice, she settled all those birds, gave me her full attention, and her words flowed with potent wisdom. I never felt judged by her. That doesn't mean I didn't want to avoid the need for it. I would never have wanted to disappoint her or Uncle Bruce. Their approval was enough to keep me on the straight. Yet Aunt Jean's compassion was just as instrumental in making me want to do my best, as was her gentle sense of humor. She appreciated the funny side of things and could whip off a witty remark from time to time. But her humor was always kind. I think she believed, as I do, that humor was the best way to prevent the heart from getting pickled in anger, so that it could eventually turn back to love. I used to be more overwhelmed by the finality of death, the grief at knowing that I'd never see or talk to a person again. But after a few powerful losses, I came to understand that there are ways to keep someone with me forever. Remember and celebrate what I loved and enjoyed about them. Tell those stories. Adopt their best behaviors. Even if I can't match their example, reach for it, knowing that I will be better for trying. And never let go of their heart. Jean Pate's greatest gift was the power and constancy of her love. When my sister stepped on a hill of fire ants, or when Susan and I had an overly intimate encounter with chiggers on a pine tree, or later, when we suffered more adult woes, Aunt Jean was always there. Her love was medicine. It made my heart bigger, and it made me a better person. Bear with me. In the last months of her life, as I knew the time was coming when I'd need to let her go, I found it harder and harder to put my feelings into language. My words were like puzzle pieces that would not form a picture. So I pulled Aunt Jean's love deep into my heart and breathed it back into hers, like bellows on a flame or CPR. I would spend time every day in prayerful communion, taking her in and letting her stretch my heart just a little bit more. I aim to honor Jean Pate by keeping my heart as big as she made it. I know that won't be easy, for all that she made it seem so. To love as she did takes great faith and humility, and she was an Olympic gold medalist of love. May her beautiful light continue to shine through all who loved her. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Now I want to just kind of open it for any who would like to share. Since we're streaming this service and there are people that are having an opportunity to worship with us, I'm going to ask that you use the mic, and if you're able to come forward, if not, I'll bring it to you, or you could come to the lectern. I just want to open this up for any that would like to share.
Melissa, that was beautiful. I want to say a couple of things on the heels of what Melissa said. My name is Meg. I've been friends with the Pates for 45 years or so. I was an adopted daughter of Bruce and Jean's. A word that I've been thinking about lately that is not usually used as one to describe Jean is fierce, especially as shy as she was initially, but she was fierce. She was fierce in her love. She was fierce in her love for all things and everyone, especially her family. She was fierce in her faith. She was involved in about every organization in a community and within UMC as she could be. She also taught me some of the same things: the kindness, the gentleness, the accepting. If you knew Jean, you knew she loved angels and she collected angels, and Jesus has a new one. God has a new angel. And that angel is inside of me, and if you knew her, she's inside of you. And I just thank the Lord that the Pates were brought into my life.
One reason I'm saying use the mic, because this is something the family can have, you know, look back on and stream also for those that aren't here. So I'll either bring it to you or good.
My name is Julia Hoyle. I got to know Bruce and Jean after they retired and moved to the lake. I knew them in Sunday school, knew her in United Methodist Women, knew them as a volunteer at the Open Door, and enjoyed all the singing they did in the choir. There were many qualities that I admired about them, but I was just so amazed at their dedication. I never heard a negative word about coming to the Open Door. Bruce loved to do the prison ministry. They loved the singing, and of course we did too, but they were just so dedicated and so positive in that dedication that sure made an impression on me.
My name is Nancy. Most of you know me. I blew into the Pate's life as a fresh New Yorker. And I really do mean the word fresh. I had no boundaries. I had manners. But what I did have was a big heart. And I was blessed to become a caregiver for her mom. And that woman could laugh and the whole room would move, her mom, because it was a bouncy kind of laugh. I'll never forget when I tried to play the piano. I tried to do When the Saints Come Marching In. They never did march in. I couldn't play it at all, and she would just sit there and laugh and say, play it again, because she wanted to laugh at me. And Mom and Dad, I have always called them Mom and Dad. They took a person whose life was not raised by Christians, and they showed me more love than anybody ever has in my lifetime. And they remade me. They brought out the kindness, the laughter, the talent. I didn't think I had any. And they encouraged the things like cooking. You need to open a restaurant. Oh, no, I don't. And Mr. Pate, we had our own sense of humor, and we laughed on a daily basis. I am so grateful that I have become the woman that I have become. And it is directly because of Jean, Mom, and Bruce, Dad, Pate. And I will always feel bonded to this family because there's no price on the gifts they gave me, ever. And I love them more than I remember loving anybody. So, except my children. So, love you guys too.
You want to carry people who are listening?
Okay. Well, my name is Tony, and I met Bruce at the open door. I was homeless, and I met Jean there. And they struck me as an odd couple at first. And so I sat down one Wednesday and I listened to Bruce preach. And I really liked the way he preached. I thought it really came from his heart, and it came from the book. And so that's what led me to go there every Wednesday and listen to Bruce preach. And Jean was always sitting right by his side. And I introduced myself. We became friends at the open door. And I started going to Celebrate Recovery, and then I met their daughter, Sue. And I believe they changed my life. They put hope back in my heart. I mean, being homeless, it's hard to explain, but being homeless, you can be hopeless too. And yeah, I appreciate knowing the Pates, and I appreciate knowing Sue, and I appreciate knowing Nancy. And thanks for helping me change my life. And I know they're up there right now, and they're looking down on all of us, and they're smiling, and they're happy. And that's what counts. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris, and have had the privilege of being in, actually knew of Bruce through prison ministry decades ago, and had the privilege of being their pastor for a season, and so blessed and grateful for them. Just wanted to say two things in addition to all the amazing testimonies that have been celebrated. I'm marveling at the fact that anytime that I have been with Jean, can I say she was small of stature, but a bit of a spiritual giant. Does that make sense? And I always felt like that her body could never hold her spirit, and that pound for pound, she had about as much grit and determination as anybody I've ever met. And I celebrate that. Like, I celebrate that. And just secondly, just the gift of Bruce and Jean as a team. I have a wedding later this afternoon, and I was doing a rehearsal for that couple last night, and they're 25 and they're just starting out. And I admit to you guys that I couldn't keep my mind on the 25-year-olds in front of me at the rehearsal last night, because all I could think about was Bruce and Jean. decades ago. And it just occurred to me while I was standing there with them that, with Bruce and Jean celebrating their life together, their marriage, their teamwork in ministry, that, I don't know, like they didn't get married to live together. Like there's a lot of different ways to live together. You don't have to get married to do that. But there's something in the covenant of marriage that says, like, I want to die with you. And they lived well together. And the way that I got to see them honor each other in the last leg of their journey, and the way that this family has honored and loved them, it's been really beautiful to see. And I just celebrate that and thank God for them. So thanks.
Thank you, Chris. I know that there's probably others that might have words to share. The good news is, after the service, we've been invited to the narthex by the family. There'll be some refreshments, but most importantly, some moments to be together. So if you have a story that didn't get told in here, please share it with the family. Psalm 121, I think it's often known as the mountain psalm. It's a good psalm for those of us that live in these hills. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made the heavens and the earth. Behold, he who made you will never slumber nor sleep. He will be the shade on your right hand and not let the sun smite you by day or the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil, keep your going out, your coming in from this time forth, forevermore. And then these selected verses from the 8th chapter of Romans, it always helps me to remember that it's quite possible that Paul wrote these words in the deprivation of a prison cell, and yet he could say this. What are we to say about these things? If God is for us, who is against us? Who will separate us from the love of Christ? Hardship, distress, persecution, famine, nakedness, peril, sword? No. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither principalities nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation could ever separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus. Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and you may have it abundantly. Now, he wasn't talking about a little pinch of respiratory life. He was talking about joyful, extravagant, my cup runneth over life. If anybody ever lived into that possibility, it was Jean Pate. She lived abundantly. She was certainly abundant in just her love of life. Will Rogers years ago said, you know, even if you're on the right track, you're still going to get run over if you just sit there. But that wasn't her story. Her story was the contradiction of that. She wasn't about staying put, sitting still. She just believed in full participation and full engagement of life. Just think of all of her different aspirations, enjoyments, and hobbies. She loved listening to good music. I found out she loved listening to one of my favorites, John Denver, Balsam Range. She loved bending over and getting her hands in the good soil of gardening, being in the kitchen, baking some of her signature offerings like pumpkin bread, right? Being on the road, she loved to travel. She and Bruce, Alaska, and then one of their bucket lists, they finally got to explore Oberammergau, the Passion Play in Germany. And think about all the choirs that she said yes to. Choral choirs, handbell choirs. She loved life. Life loved her back. She loved people. People loved her back. She certainly loved her family. We need to pause and just slow down for a moment and just celebrate 64 years of marriage that she and Bruce had together. Just think about that. It all started at an altar. They entered into this covenant relationship. And think about all the ups and downs of life they faced, all the unpredictabilities, but they made one thing very predictable, that they would be there for each other. 64 years of knowing and being known, of giving and receiving. What a testimony of the power of relationships. Oh, and she loved her children, and Susan and Laura and Joe, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. A lot of you were on the receiving end of that love, and you know how she helped to enlarge and edify your lives. But so are many of you here. That's what we've been hearing here today. I mean, her circle of relationship wasn't tight and small. It was forever widening. Why? Because she just saw humanity as the person she was connected to, as fellow brothers and sisters. So there was always room for the next person, the new one. And I will love one phrase that showed up in her obituary, that She was a spiritual surrogate mother. I love that. Spiritual surrogate mother to all kind of people in all kind of ages and places and backgrounds. She loved her family, she loved people, and we loved her back. She certainly loved God, and God loved her back abundantly. And the best thing about her story is she took that great love of God and she didn't bottle it up for her own consumption, but she gave her life as a joyful response to that love. Her faith journey, it was a long journey. It wasn't up and down, here, there, gone tomorrow, not episodic. It was, as Eugene Peterson wrote, he said, it's a long faithfulness in the same direction. Years of constancy and continuity and worshiping and learning and serving. And I don't think she ever circled the wagons in terms of growing a faith. She thought she was never too old to let God continue to surprise her. She was a true Methodist. Now, what that means, she wasn't not so much in terms of our organization and all that, but that something about being Methodist, we kind of learned somewhere along the line that at some point our faith better become practical, or it isn't real. That it has to somehow begin to speak to how we relate to our neighborhood, to the school, to the community, to the world around us, and that's why she gave herself. Think about some of her involvements. United Methodist Women, Open Door, you heard about that, Second Blessing, Redbird Mission, Pathway, Habitat for Humanity, Emmaus, on and on. I think she understood the truth that loving the world, loving others, has to somehow move beyond the thinking, the saying, the understanding, and the analyzing of love to the doing of love. Her faith, her love was acted out in this world, and that's why many of you are here today, because she made a difference in your life and the life of this community. So many things we could go on and say, but we need to say this: it's hard to let go. Even at 92 years of age, it's hard to let go of a dear human treasure, of a mother, a grandmother, a good friend. So what are we to say about this? That's what Paul asked there in the 8th chapter. What are we going to say about these things? The thing I like about Paul, he didn't try to tell us more than he really knew. He didn't try to explain all the mysteries of life and death. But he said, this much you can count on. It's the love of God. It's got muscle to it. He says, the love of God, we know this so much through Jesus, that this is a love that shows up right where we're at. It gets into the thick of things, where we walk and where we work and where we hurt. So one of my prayers today is for this family, that as you walk through these days of loss, you may sense that love that came to us in the presence of Jesus is as near to you as your hands and feet. The cords of that love can never be severed. Then Paul takes it a step further. He not only talks about the depth and the breadth of that love, he talks about the length of it. That's the mystery. It's a love that was here at work before any of us were here, and all through our lives and way out beyond us. In many ways, we're like children. We're looking at life through a knothole in the fence. That's just the way we live. We're pretty much sometimes focused on just what's right in front of us, like children looking at a parade through the knothole in the fence. All we can see is what's right in front of us. And it's like Paul's trying to get us above the limitations to see the unbelievable length of God's love. Timeless, large. I guess one of my favorite plays, I think I saw it first of all in high school, maybe again in college, was Thornton Wilder's Our Town. It's a classic. But I do have a favorite moment. This letter has come to the town, and the word has gotten out about the letter. But what's getting everybody's attention is not the content of the written letter, it's the envelope. And so this girl, she's standing in the window and her boyfriend is outside on the lawn. And she's excited about this, and she reads what's on the envelope, and this is what it is. This is how it's addressed. Sutton Corner, okay. Grovers County, New Hampshire, okay. United States of America. Continent, North America. Western Hemisphere. The earth. The universe, the mind of God. That's what it said in the envelope. All along, and the little boy out in the front yard, he's 14 years old, but he has enough wisdom to scratch his head and say, well, what do you know? What do you know? All along, he thought he just lived in a little town in New Hampshire, and all along, he lived in the very mind and love of God. So Jean Pate, her last address was right here in Haywood County, zip code, right around our zip code. But that was not the limit of her address. She had lived and known something much larger than that. She had lived her way into the abundant, my cup runneth over, mind and love of God. Well, what do you know? Well, what do you know? 92 years out of the unborn, the not yet, the uncreated. One who was nothing became not just something, but someone. Her name was Jean. She lived among us. She walked where we walk. It was the very mind and love of God that brought her into this world, the mind and love of God that accompanied her through her days. And now it's the endless love of God that welcomes her into something beyond our own imagination. Well, what do you know? Well, what do you know? We are people of faith, people of a large visionary faith of love and life. Let us affirm that now. I'm going to ask you to stand and affirm our faith and remain standing for our hymn. You'll find the words in the bulletin. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to love and serve others, seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. In life, in death, and life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. Amen. Our hymn is number 707, the Hymn of Promise. I remind you that following the service, there will be a gathering in the side of the narthex and a time to be with the family. You all are invited. As we go forth, let us celebrate that Jean Pate, who lived a wonderful life in the Church of Jesus Christ, now has had her membership transferred into the Church Triumphant. So now as you go into the day, may you know that a living God is at your elbow. The power beside you, underneath you, before you, behind you is great as any challenge ahead of you. May you go in peace with the peace of Christ.